Hello, I'm Christy Haller-Schmidt with City Channel Pittsburgh, and today I'm here with Mayor William Peduto. Mayor, thank you for being here.
It's great to be here.
Well, 2015 is finally behind us. It was your second year in office. As far as the job's concerned, what was the biggest difference for you between the first year and the second year?
I'd have to say in the first year, when you come from city council, you have your hand on everything, right? I mean, constituent calls are coming in, whether it's a new development that's occurring or a public safety issue, you're directly involved in everything that's going on. And it's kind of hard to get your hand off that wheel. So in year one, I tried to be probably both the mayor and a city councilman, meaning I had a vision of where I wanted to see the city go, but then I got involved in departments in trying to implement that change from happening. By the second year, I realized that I hired people that are smarter than me, that have much more of an ability to be able to take control of their own departments, to be able to add their own flavor to the vision, and in a way it allowed me to be more of a mayor. So I would say that it's a job that I'm still growing into, but I certainly now have a team that is a team that I have all the faith in the world in to be able to carry out the vision.
You have a pretty special relationship with the White House. Last year, you got to ride with President Obama when he was visiting Pittsburgh. Let's talk about some of your White House initiatives that you've been working on. Energy and sustainability are buzzwords right now. Could you tell us about the memorandum for understanding that you signed with the Department of Energy?
Yeah, best Uber ride ever. Got to ride in the Beast. I didn't even realize it was called the Beast until the end. And my biggest regret wasn't anything having to do with the conversation. It was that I didn't take the time to get a selfie while I was in there with them. So at the end we did, and the lighting was bad. The memorandum of understanding we have with the Department of Energy is historic. And you can't say it's the only time that a city and the Department of Energy have gone into an agreement, because nobody's looked back to like 1970 whatever when it was created, the department, to see if it's happened. But if it has happened, it's been rare. What it means is the Department of Energy will partner with the city so that we have this research and development arm of federal government that will help us to create energy systems of the 21st century. What's that mean? That means that we have in our mind this notion that when we turn on our coffee pot in the morning, that the power has to be generated from some big coal-burning factory 50 miles away, and then transmitted over lines till it gets to our house and our coffee starts perking. But by the time that the energy is produced to the time that it gets to our house, it's only 38% of all the energy that was used to create it. Very inefficient. What if you could create the energy in your own neighborhood? What if you had the ability to create different types of energy in neighborhoods all throughout the city of Pittsburgh and then just transmit it down the street? Well, now it's around 88% efficient, and energy costs get lower. We save the environment, we save money, and Pittsburgh should be the city that takes that leap in North America to becoming a district energy city for the 21st century. And the only way we can do that, because we're pretty good at patching potholes and policing our city, but trying to do an energy plan is very difficult, is by partnering with the Department of Energy and by partnering with companies like NRG and our own local People's Natural Gas, Duquesne Light, in creating an urban lab in Pittsburgh to see it happen.
Well, another really interesting and important program you've been working on is My Brother's Keeper.
Yeah.
Could you explain to the audience what is that program and why is it important?
So My Brother's Keeper understands that for young men of color, there are structural barriers that are part of any type of government interaction, whether it's education, access to health care, affordable housing, different programs that historically have excluded minorities from even being able to participate, getting a mortgage 20 years ago. And what it does is it creates a proactive approach to help break those barriers and to provide opportunity. And this is the key, opportunity. It doesn't give anyone anything, but it does say there will be provided opportunities to be able to succeed. So what Pittsburgh did is we've adopted a plan. We worked with local leaders in the African American community, everyone from churches to civic leaders to business leaders to community leaders, and we said, what can we do better? Where are we failing? Why do we have in neighborhoods like Homewood unemployment over 30%? How do we get those young men into jobs? How do we provide them the tools that they need in order to complete their education, get vocational training, and be able to do it? How can we work to start to heal the communication between young black men in the Pittsburgh police? And how can we have this discussion openly, not fearing the talk because it's a sensitive discussion, but doing it because it's a real discussion that needs to happen. And we look to the community to solve the answers. Over the course of the past year, we've worked with Allegheny County and other government agencies to help to put together the blueprint. And we're doing it every day. We have a whole new group of young African American leaders, people in their 30s, and they're eager. They're saying, give me the ball. And they're working within different organizations and within their own neighborhoods to make a difference. The thing that I like about it the most, the positive, yes we can attitude, that these are issues that are solvable, and that if we work together, we're going to get to there. And My Brother's Keeper is the blueprint to do that.
Well, Pittsburgh is growing fast, and lots of people are concerned about affordable housing. What has your administration done to make sure that people do continue to have access to affordable housing?
It's a challenge, I'll be honest. It's not just Pittsburgh, and it's not just the United States. This is a discussion that's happening all over the world. For the first time in forever, the majority of the people in the world live in cities. People are migrating into cities in Asia, and in Europe, and in Africa, all throughout the United States. And in Pittsburgh, after 50 years of watching our city lose population, after 50 years of just doing the best we can to manage decline, we're now going to have to manage growth, and we're not used to that. And so what happens is you see stresses come on board, where certain neighborhoods start to see growth occurring that have never seen growth for 40, 50 years. You can point to neighborhoods like East Liberty, and on one hand you'll have people saying, look at what's happened to East Liberty. I remember in the 1990s when everybody was leaving, and in 2000 when it was leading in crime statistics, when in the 1990s it was the highest incidence of drive-by shootings and carjackings, when the business district emptied out. And they can say and look today and say, wow, look how it's come back, crime is down. All this new development happening. But on the other hand, you have people who have lived in East Liberty for these years who will look at that same situation and say, what's happened to my neighborhood? There's a store that I can't afford to shop in. There's a restaurant I'll never be able to afford to eat in. And all these new houses being built in my neighborhood, I can't afford to rent it. And both people are right. So you have to work together on this issue. And it's not one side's right and the other side's wrong. When we want to rebuild neighborhoods, we can't follow the failed policies of before. We can't put all the poor people in one building or all the poor people in one neighborhood, not provide them access to food or schools or anything else, and then assume that it's going to succeed, because we've tried that before and it fails. We have to have a mix of income, a mix of opportunities, high market rate housing with affordable subsidized housing, and to build it out in the model that the community is asking for. And that may be different, because it may be different what East Liberty is looking for than what Lawrenceville is looking for, or Bloomfield, or Carrick, or Sheridan, or any part of the north side. Any neighborhood has a unique set of requests and also a set of what they expect. And we try to work around that. On affordable housing, we've taken a unique approach. Not many cities have done this. We look at where the wealth is happening in these areas, where the growth is happening down in the Hill District, where that is happening in East Liberty. And we're taking part of that new property tax that's being created, and we're putting it back into that neighborhood to provide an incentive to developers to create affordable housing, because they can build market rate, and they can make a lot of money, and they have the right to do so. But if we sweeten the pot, and say, hey, we understand that, but you create 20% affordable housing, we'll give you this much. 40%, this much. 60%, this much. And we create an incentive program. We'll start to see more affordable housing happening. We've built over 500 units of affordable housing in the past couple of years. We have more units coming online, one of the largest in the country happening in Larimer. We have a project that we're looking at now in the Hill up in Bedford. We've got the housing that we've been able to save at Crawford Square. Over 150 families will be able to stay there for the next 30 years now. And we have it going all throughout the city, a plan that puts affordability at the forefront of development.
Related to housing, you've also issued a challenge to end veteran homelessness.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, when we took office, there were slightly under 500 homeless veterans in the city of Pittsburgh. We actually went out working with Dr. Withers and his team and the Veterans Leadership Program and a number of other organizations and found out who they were. I think the number is 487. And these aren't just the chronic homeless that are sleeping on a corner or in a tent. These are the folks who couch surf and stay at somebody's house for a week, then find a relative's house to stay at for another week, but they don't have a home. And we worked with our shelters and others in order to be able to, over the course of the next 18 months, take that number down to less than 50. So we've been successful in providing shelter for 90% of our homeless veterans in 18 months. But that's still not good enough, because there's still 50 veterans out there that need a home. And that number will increase. And 2 years from now, there'll be a new group of veterans. So what we've done is we've enabled the organizations that are on the ground doing this work to be able to do more. It doesn't become a part of city government. City government becomes the enabler to help these organizations to get to zero. Zero homeless veterans in Pittsburgh. That's a mission that all of us, everyone, can agree on.
You've clearly spent a lot of time trying to make Pittsburgh a better place for everyone. And another thing that you've been working on is the Welcoming Pittsburgh initiative. Could you explain to viewers what Welcoming Pittsburgh is?
Yeah, so one of the things about not growing for 50 years is people don't come here. So if you drive around the country, you'll see that the country looks more like the United Nations than Pittsburgh. We certainly have immigration in our DNA. My grandfather, my grandmother are both from Italy. They raised me, you know, during that time of the pre-Depression. A lot of Southern Europeans, Eastern Europeans, people coming up from the Southern United States helped to define what Pittsburgh is today. But over the past 50 years, we haven't seen the inclusion of others because there were no jobs for them to come to. Now that we're growing, now that the economy is growing, we're going to start seeing more people coming to Pittsburgh. What are we going to do about that? Do we make it difficult for them like it was for so many of our grandparents? So many of our parents? They'll tell you the stories about how they weren't wanted. Or do we change that and we say, hey, we made that mistake in the past, we're not going to make it twice. We're going to be welcoming to those that are coming to Pittsburgh. We're going to give them a terrible towel, and we're going to say, you're a Pittsburgher. And we're going to create a program of ways to be able to do so, working hand in hand with the ones that are part of a program of immigration, to be able to have decent housing available that can help to rebuild our neighborhoods, giving opportunities for their children to be able to have health care and an education and being part of our community. And understanding that even simple things like a movie night in a foreign language means so much to somebody, and being able to offer something as simple as that shows that Pittsburgh is the neighborhood, or series of neighborhoods, that we always wanted it to be. Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, a city with a heart.
Well, another thing that I know that you're passionate about is improving technology within the city and efficiency. Pittsburgh was lucky enough to be part of Code for America in 2015. Could you tell us exactly what did the Code for America Fellows accomplish while they were here?
So Code for America, there were 6 cities selected in the United States. And basically what it does is it takes on a challenge and then through technology is able to create a new product for you. So our challenge that we offered them was, government contracting. Sounds bad, could be worse. At bad, we're just not doing a good job in getting enough contracts in order to get the best price for our taxpayers. At worst, we're steering contracts to friends and have a system that is not fair so that everybody has an opportunity for the job. So there's an old saying, light is the best disinfectant. So we wanted to shine as much light onto the government contracting process as possible. So the code fellows came in and they worked on a system, and what they created was Beacon, just like a beacon in a lighthouse. And if you hang drywall, or if you sell cars, or if you're a plumber, or you frame pictures, all the different things that we contract with, you don't have to go through the archaic system of trying to find the ad in a newspaper that says we're looking for it. You just sign on to our website, you tell us what you do, and then we'll tell you when a contract's coming up. And you know what? Within the first month, we were successful, because the people that take care of our senior centers, the ones that clean the bathrooms and clean the floors, that contract came up, and for years, it was just one company that bid on it. This year, there were 14. And it was because Beacon allowed people who have cleaning companies the opportunity to bid on the work. And you know what the taxpayers got? A lower cost, because competition reduces cost. And technology can be used in so many ways. Whether we're using snowplow tracker so you can sit at home and know if the snowplow has been on your street or not, or the supervisor can sit in his truck and a laptop and find out where his drivers might have missed a few streets. Or just a multitude of other ways. We can make sure that government services become more effective, become more efficient and cost less money, and become more equitable. So if one gets it, everyone gets it.
Speaking of technology, this year, in 2015, you introduced the Roadmap for Inclusive Innovation. What is this program, and why is it important for the future of Pittsburgh? So
the Roadmap for Inclusive Innovation was launched by our Chief of Innovation and Performance, Deborah Lamb, who is an amazingly brilliant woman. It has been picked up by cities across the country, and it understands what I was talking about before, that technology can help to change Pittsburgh, and it can help change the way that services are delivered. But for a lot of the people, especially our seniors, for a lot of people, especially our poor, there is a digital divide. There is not a bridge for them to be a part of it. So if we're going to do these things, then we have to think before we even do it, is it including everyone? And through a series of different initiatives, a way of understanding a lot of different opportunities that we haven't done before, making our senior centers wireless, teaching our seniors how to get on and use email, providing computers to our seniors so they don't have to stand in line, but they have the opportunity for a multitude of computers to be able to do it, and being able to work within our lower income neighborhoods. What we're doing is we're putting a bridge over that divide and coming up with a way to utilize technology so that it's there for all. Also in 2015, Pittsburgh was selected as one of the 100 resilient cities and awarded a grant for, I think, $5 million. We originally received up to $2 million in assistance by being one of the first 67 cities in the world to be selected by the Rockefeller Foundation as a resilient city. And then this year we received an additional $5 million to be able to begin to implement the changes that we need to do. So then what kind of efforts are we going to be making to improve resiliency with that funding? Well, starting off with the Rockefeller Foundation, they ask cities around the world to apply to understand what are the stresses, the day-to-day issues that will cause your city to face a potential bad situation. I don't want to call it a catastrophe, but it could be. And then those stresses could be man-made. Well, certainly we faced them in the 1980s with economics and the collapse of the steel industry. They could be basically acts of God, whether it's flooding that we've realized where we're getting heavy 100-year rains on a consistent basis and people's basements are backing up, or it could be shocks. And a shock could be, in this case of Pittsburgh, a disaster to our water, where our water would become contaminated like they're dealing with in Flint, Michigan. or it could be something that would be more along the way of a terrorist act, a man-made act that would cause severity in the ability for the city to deliver services. But you have to plan for that. And if you have to plan for that, it means you have to budget for it. And if you have to budget for it, it means you have to start thinking 40 years out, 50 years out, or the immediacy, in making sure that everything has a place within it. It means that you no longer just look at a senior center as a senior center, but as a warming shelter, a defense shelter, the ability and properly stocked to be able to help at any time of a disaster. And if you think about Pittsburgh, we probably are the model of the most resilient city, because we've gone through the natural disasters of floods and landslides and a lot of other things, and we've lost life, even most recently on Washington Boulevard, because of a flash flood. We have certainly gone through the stresses of an economic collapse. And at each time, and also the constant stress of environmental pollution from our industrial days, where our air was dangerous to breathe and our water was poisonous to drink. But at each of those phases, we came through it, and we built through it, because people were thinking ahead. So what this does, and what this grant provides us, is the opportunity to work with cities around the world, with the leading cities that are understanding not just how innovation changes cities, but how forward thinking changes cities, and create this partnership of sharing ideas along with the best companies and organizations in the world to create a plan for Pittsburgh to remain the most resilient city in the world.
You know, we're really lucky in Pittsburgh to have a lot of outstanding world-class universities. Carnegie Mellon University and the city partnered as founding partners with the White House to create Metro Labs. What is Metro Labs?
Metro Labs is the understanding that if we, as a city, were to be able to partner with the university, we would be able to receive, much like we have with the Department of Energy, an entire world of research and potential development of products and services that we would never be able to have just within city government. And it's the understanding of a university, if they were able to partner with a city, they could look at that city as an urban laboratory and be able to start to take their research, put it to tests, and create products that they could then market and build the economy of that city. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's something that's always been there, but was never really understood. And so the city of Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon University entered into a memorandum of understanding that's the first of its kind ever between a city and a university. And we did that about a year and a half ago. The White House took notice, and so they invited us to talk with other leaders from around the country, both university presidents and mayors, about how it works and how it could work in their cities. Today, there are 22 Metro Labs, combinations of cities and universities throughout the United States, and they are centered, and the organization is centered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And not only is it now a partnership that we have with Carnegie Mellon, but now I have a partnership with Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana. And I can find out how the South Bend was able to partner with Notre Dame to create sensors in their sewer pipes so that during heavy rains they were able to divert water into other areas and avoid flooding and backups in people's homes. So it's a brave new world out there. There's a lot of changes that are happening. But just like back in the days of Davy Lawrence, when he partnered with R.K. Mellon, it's always about the partnerships and the strategic partnerships that you have that will help to create the new solutions.
That's pretty cool.
It is. By the way, we got $1 million for that too.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't. There's no taxpayers' money going into these things. Actually, they're giving us money to be able to do it.
Speaking of another type of partnership, the city was selected in 2015 as one of 6 cities to take part in a police community trust program. Could you explain how that's going to help us as a city? Yeah,
so one of the mandates that has come down from Chief McClay is the insistence that we build out community-oriented policing as part of our model of policing in the city of Pittsburgh. He's been able to take recommendations and facts from within the Bureau itself, from the rank and file members, be able to incorporate that with a really strong outreach program of dealing and talking and basically participating in a partnership with community leaders throughout every neighborhood in the city, and combine the two into a very proactive approach to how the police and our community work together. There's a reason that we haven't had a Ferguson or a Baltimore or so many others, because before it escalates to a situation, there are people who can pick up a phone and call each other and be able to communicate. But we still need to do more. Pittsburgh was selected as one of, I believe, a half dozen cities around the country to be able to do just that, to be able to partner with the leading authorities on an academic level, on a public safety level, and on a government level to help to create structural change between the police and the community that will last beyond the next 10 years. We don't want to do something that is temporary. We want to see a structural change occur where our police and our community trust each other. And we want to help to build those bonds when we build the best police force in this country. The partnerships that have happened in the past have been good, but they haven't been to the level where we're taking them. And it is at a critical time in this country to be able to take it there. But I also believe that it can succeed, and it will succeed, and that in the next 2 years and 3 years, police forces from around the country will be traveling to Pittsburgh and asking, how did you get it done?
Well, that's really going to help the community and the police.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And both have to be willing to work together.
Mm-hmm. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit and start talking about 2016. This is our 200th birthday.
Yeah, you got a flag behind you.
Centennial. Mm-hmm. What kind of events could the people watching look forward to in the coming year to celebrate the bicentennial? I
want your event. So we don't have any money, so I can't throw a big party. They built this beautiful building for the 100th anniversary, but we're not going to be building any buildings. What we're going to be doing is celebrating how wonderful of a city this really is. So I want your Little League team to march in the parade. I want your church gospel group to be performing down on the point. I want to hear about every festival and every party, and anytime more than 4 people gather to say, yes, this is a good city, and we want to make it part of the 200th celebration as well. And how do you do it? Just send us an email, pgh200 at pittsburghpa.gov. pgh200 at pittsburghpa.gov. Right here. You can give me a little car run, right? All right, right there. Email us. Tell us a great idea. Say, hey, you know what we should do? And then let's spend an entire year celebrating all the unique parts of Pittsburgh. I jokingly say the best part of my job is that I have an all-access pass to this city. We all have an all-access pass to this city. What we want to do this year is show you and tell you, here's all the places. Cross a river, cross a bridge, come join, and be able to be a part and maybe see a part of Pittsburgh you never saw before.
Also in 2016, you and your team put together a budget, and you spent a lot of time and carefully crafted it. What from that budget can you kind of like give us a little bit of a preview of that Pittsburghers will appreciate and want to hear about?
Yeah, I think that when we did our first budget, we wanted to restructure it in a way that would restructure city government, be able to have enough money to pay the bills, and what we call truth in budgeting. If we had a position, we fill the position. We don't put all these phantom positions in the budget just in order to have a lot of money at the end of the year and pretend that we were frugal. So this year's budget was called the meat and potatoes budget. More cops, more building inspectors, more miles paved. All those things that we've sort of ignored for a long time. We've never had a fully funded and staffed building inspection department. We do this year. We've never put 3 classes of cops through an academy. We're going to this year. We've never paved as many miles of streets in over 20 years that we're going to do this year. And we didn't have to raise taxes to do it. So I think what the people of Pittsburgh are saying, hey, that's great, Peduto, great with your resiliency and your computer stuff and your damn bike lanes. There's a little money for bike lanes too. But pave my street. Put some cops in my neighborhood. Let me see them. You know that house down the street that I keep calling about? Will you please have an inspector come out here and cite them? We're getting back to that.
Good. Well, I don't have any other questions for you. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Cable Bureau budget is full, so you guys all have a job.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. No, it's just, 2016 is going to be a year to celebrate this city. It's going to be a year that we look back over 200 years and think about all the times we got knocked down and all the times we brushed ourselves back up and we were able to stand. It's going to be a time when we can start to think about the future with optimism. It's been a long time since we've been able to do that. And it's going to be a time that a lot of us who stuck it out here during the 80s and the 90s, when our friends told us that Pittsburgh died, we can send them a note now saying we're doing pretty good. 2016 is a year to celebrate.
Well, Mayor, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And talking with us. I'm Christy Haller-Schmidt from City Channel Pittsburgh. Thanks for watching.